In the next few videos, we will explore some patterns of inheritance. In pea plants, the flower color gene has two versions or alleles. One allele codes for purple flowers. The other allele codes for white flowers. Like humans, pea plants are diploid. They have two copies of each gene. Recall that the genotype is the set of alleles that a plant has. In this case, two alleles for purple flowers. The phenotype is the observed flower color. This plant has two identical alleles of the flower color gene. It is said to be homozygous because its alleles are identical. For a homozygous genotype, the phenotype is easy to predict. A plant with two alleles for purple flowers will produce purple flowers. Similarly, two alleles for white flowers will produce white flowers. Another plant might have two different alleles for this gene, an allele for purple flowers and an allele for white flowers. Such an individual with different alleles is said to be heterozygous. Now, the actual flower color of the plant is not immediately obvious. In this case, the purple flower allele suppresses the white flower allele. The plant has purple flowers. We say that the phenotype for purple flowers is dominant over white flowers. The allele for the dominant phenotype always affects the phenotype if it is present. Just one allele for purple flowers is sufficient for the plant to produce purple flowers. The other phenotype, giving white flowers, is recessive. If an allele for purple flowers is present, it suppresses the allele for white flowers. So white flowers are observed only when there is no allele for purple flowers. We represent the allele for the dominant phenotype with a capital letter. I've chosen a capital P here for purple, but you could choose a different capital letter. The allele for the recessive phenotype is represented by a lowercase letter. We use the same letter as the dominant allele. So we'll call this allele lowercase p. Suppose we had a homozygous purple flowered plant with two capital P alleles and a homozygous white flowered plant with two lowercase p alleles. What kind of flowers will their offspring have? The offspring get a capital P allele from the first parent. Since this is the only kind of allele it has, it is the only allele it can pass on. The second plant passes on the lowercase p allele. All their offspring have one capital P and one lowercase p. They are heterozygous since they have two different alleles. Recall that capital P represents the allele for the dominant phenotype. The heterozygous offspring express the dominant phenotype and have purple flowers. What if two of these heterozygous plants produce offspring? Plant 1 can pass on either capital P or lowercase p. Plant 2 can also pass on either capital P or lowercase p. Let's draw a grid to visualize the combinations of alleles in the offspring. Here are the possible genotypes of their offspring. If at least one capital P is present, the plant will have purple flowers. What is the probability that an offspring of these plants will have purple flowers? There are 4 scenarios which are equally likely. 3 of them produce purple flowers. So the probability is 3 by 4 or 75%. The probability of white flowered offspring is 1 by 4 or 25%. In the previous example, the parents had the dominant phenotype, purple flowers, but carried the recessive allele. Such individuals are called carriers. They do not display the recessive phenotype, but they can pass on the allele for this recessive phenotype to their offspring. PKU is a genetic disease in humans. It is a rare disease that causes brain damage. It leads to delayed development in children until they are treated. Newborns are routinely screened for PKU. It is caused by 2 non-functional copies of a particular gene involved in our metabolism. Someone with at least 1 functional copy is healthy. A person with 2 non-functional alleles develops PKU. Like many genetic diseases, PKU is recessive. A person with at least 1 normal allele does not develop it. Suppose one parent was healthy. This is the dominant phenotype. This is similar to the inheritance of purple flowers. Again, I've chosen to represent the alleles with P for PKU. And the other parent is suffering from PKU. They have 2 alleles for PKU. All their offspring inherit 1 normal allele and 1 allele for PKU. They are all healthy but are carriers. Suppose both parents are carriers for PKU. Each of them can pass on either a normal allele or an allele causing the disease. We see that there is a 75% probability that their child is healthy and a 25% probability that their child will suffer from PKU. Genetic diseases can also be dominant. Huntington's disease is a dominant disease. It causes progressive brain degeneration later in life. People with Huntington's typically experience symptoms in their 40s or 50s. Just 1 allele for Huntington's can cause the disease. Suppose one parent is healthy. This is the recessive phenotype. And the other parent is heterozygous and develops Huntington's. What is the probability that their offspring will develop Huntington's? Pause the video and try working it out yourself by drawing a grid as we did earlier. Here is the solution. I've used the letter H for Huntington's. Their offspring have a 50% chance of inheriting a capital H and developing the disease. You now understand how dominant and recessive traits are inherited.